And now, the ultimate home. Take a look at these luxury living pods, which float on steel tubes 3 meters above the surface of the water. They cost between $295,000 and $1.5 million a piece. And they're currently under construction in the Linton Bay Marina on the north coast of Panama. The company behind it, called Ocean Builders. The company hopes to distribute them internationally once it's confident the technology can be supported elsewhere. You get 73 square meters of living space in one of these things. You get panoramic windows, and they come loaded with technology. The company says if you run out of milk, hey, then drones will deliver small items. And as for taking out the garbage, well, larger autonomous vehicles, they'll do that job. The company has also devised a model for use on land. Grant Romundt is the CEO of Ocean Builders, and I am so excited to talk with you about these super cool sci-fi looking pods. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alison. Great to be here.
So let's talk about what the options are for those who want to buy one of these things. There's one built for aquatic living, one for land, and a third for what you call a more environmentally friendly option. Is there a certain person who can actually handle this kind of living? Talk us through who the right person is to buy one of these and to live in one of these.
I was originally living in a floating home about 3.5 years ago in Toronto. It looked like a normal house, but it was on a floating concrete barge. And everyone that came to visit just fell in love with the lifestyle. And I found that people that would never think about living on the water just fell in love with it. And I didn't even know it existed until I stayed there as a one-night Airbnb. And then I extended for a week, and then a month, and then the summer, and then I didn't leave for many years. So now I've come here to Panama to build what I believe is the world's most technologically advanced floating home, and maybe most advanced home on land as well.
So it is
so
it
I think
easy
the market
for... Oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
So I think the market for this is pretty much anyone that I can get on to a sea pod for just a few minutes, because the views are stunning, and I think people will fall in love with the lifestyle.
So I want to go through some of the specs with you a little bit more. What is the aquatic one attached to? How far into the ocean is it sitting? And can you install these anywhere in the world?
So the pod itself, we called it Sea Pod, the floating version in the water. It's kind of an optical illusion. It looks like the post, the steel tube post, goes straight into the sea floor, because the whole house is floating so high up above the ground or above the water. It doesn't look like it could just be floating, but it actually is floating. It can be in a minimum 5 meters of water and a maximum of about 200 meters.
What if there is a big storm that's coming, or just a big wave? I mean, is it being held steady that much that it could sustain that sort of force?
We're engineered for waves of up to 5 meters. And if we wanted to engineer for larger waves, we could. We're going to start a testing project next year in Florida, where we are going to try to engineer them for hurricane conditions. And if we can crack that nut, then I think this will be really popular in Florida. About 40% of our global demand and inquiries is actually coming from Florida. So I think there's a huge market for these there. But right now we've started in Panama because we're outside of the hurricane zone here. So it just makes things really easy.
What about electricity and also security? Pirates, I mean, it's going to take a long time. If you're having an issue in your pod, it's going to take a long time, I would think, for security to get to where you are to help you.
Well, we are starting at a place that's really close to the marina. So we have all the infrastructure here that we need. We have, we're close to convenience stores and security as well. But this is a pretty secure area. But we can also have aerial drone delivery, or aerial drones that come out and do surveillance and just make sure everything's safe. We also have something we've built called Boat AI, and it's a camera that is placed at different points around the bottom of the pod, and we can see for several miles in every direction. And we have it connected to an AI algorithm that can detect if there's unfriendly or unknown boats heading directly your way, so you can have lots of notice if there's any issues.
Okay, so full disclosure, I need to take Dramamine when I go on a boat. How do you not get seasick on one of these?
Okay, great. Well, the challenge with most boats is that the floating part of that you're actually in is floating in the wave line. And so our homes, if you notice, they're floating several meters above the waves. And then the flotation, which is under the water, is under the wave line. So we're actually skipping that whole wave section, which is where that movement comes from. And there's only a 1.6 meter diameter pole that's connecting the two. So the waves are really interacting with a very small piece of material versus an entire boat. So instead of a boat moving around in the waves, we're floating above the waves.
And very quickly, I'm curious how many of these futuristic pods you need to sell to turn a profit.
Well, we're going to need to do some refactoring for our manufacturing to get the costs down, because right now we've been building our prototypes, which have been an incredible amount of work. It's been a huge project. We've had about 80 people working for the last, up to 80 people working for the last 5 years to build this technology. And this is an incredibly complex thing. It's nothing like it's been ever been done before. There's marine engineering, there's software, hardware, and material science, and there's so many things that need to come together to make this happen that it's been a huge project. So we need to get our manufacturing up. But we just did our launch a week ago today, and our online launch, and the response has been phenomenal. So I think we're already seeing the numbers we need to put into mass production. We just need to build the structures to get there.
Well, they look super cool, and I wish you much luck. Grant Romundt, CEO of Ocean Builders, thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you, Alison.